Alright, let's set the scene. This may look like a perfectly normal explosion pogo to you, but what if I told you the person doing it cannot see the game?
Ooh. Ooh. Yeah.
This is my pet Cactus. He's a Hollow Knight speedrunner, challenge runner, and, well, he's very, very good at the game. A few days ago, he became the first ever person to beat Hollow Knight blindfolded. Under his belt, he also has a hitless Pantheon 5 clear and multiple top speedrun times. A blindfolded completion of Hollow Knight is an amazing feat that requires a lot of memorization, problem solving, awareness, patience, and practice. The more you think about it, the more ridiculous the idea of attempting it even becomes. In Hollow Knight, so much of the game is based on the visuals, the platforming, the boss attack telegraphs, etc, etc. So much of this game is designed and balanced around, well, being able to see the game. So, how was it that Cactus was able to overcome this seemingly insurmountable challenge?
There we go.
Well, that's what we're taking a look at today. In this video, I'm gonna break down and analyze Cactus's run, and showcase some of the clever solutions that he came up with. I'll also be asking him some questions directly. On that note, let's start the video, but before we do, I highly recommend you check out his full run. It's posted on his YouTube channel, and it is... wow. Yeah, just wow. Let's get into it. While playing the game with a blindfold on, we encounter some pretty big issues, some more obvious than others. For starters, it's really hard to know where on the screen you are. You also can't know how far you're walking, how high you're jumping, and you just have to depend on your memory. Now luckily, Cactus has a trick up his sleeve to mitigate a lot of these issues. And you can see him utilize this right at the beginning of the run when he drops into King's Pass. What I'm talking about, of course, is the game's audio design. Notice, for example, how he slashes around himself to identify whether he is close to a wall or not. In this way, the feedback audio of the nail hitting different objects assists him in deciphering where in the room he is. Other than that, he uses a lot of consistent setups, such as positioning himself against a wall, doing full jumps, etc, etc. Using strategies such as these, he's able to get himself all the way to the Aspid Arena. But how do you handle combat if you can't see the game? Well, in the case of the Aspid Arena, Cactus is able to find a consistent setup that allows him to manipulate the Aspids in a way where he can consistently strike them. Even False Knight is trivial for Cactus to take down because it's a fight that doesn't require much thinking or positioning at all. Even while seeing the game, speedrunners barely look at the False Knight fight because it's so simple. He fully defeats False Knight, picks up City Crest and the Geo, and then grabs the Vengeful Spirit. Now, this is gonna sound a bit weird, but the early parts of the run are one of the hardest parts when it comes to traversal, and that is because he doesn't have a consistent way of moving. Unless there's any walls or corners that he can slash at to know where he is, he has to basically count how far he's walking. Only when he picks up the Mothwing Cloak is he gonna have a consistent way to move, with one dash always moving you the same distance. But more on that after Green Path. Now, after slowly but steadily making his way up through the Gresser room, killing the Balder, and jumping across the Acid Pit, Cactus makes his way into Green Path. Now, before we continue, I need to remind you of the logistics of attempting something like this. Cactus has spent hours upon hours labbing out strategies, planning routes, and memorizing the different segments of the run, and he needs to remember all of this. No visual references, no additional information, just pure memory. Keep in mind, it's not a short run either. This is gonna take him 4 hours to complete, roughly. Green Path really turns it up a notch. It's a lot more punishing than Crossroads because of the large acid pits that cover the ground in a lot of the rooms. So he needs to use some clever strategies to mitigate the risk. Consistent positioning landmarks once again hail supreme, with walls and ceilings and other stuff that you can slash at or position yourself against. He also uses full jumps as much as possible because they give a consistent height. Small taps of the left and right buttons will have to do for precise positioning for now. Now, to save himself roughly 40 minutes of memorized routes down in Lower Green Path, Cactus decides to go for the Fireball Skip. To do this, he gathers Full Soul from the birds and then sets up a consistent position by hugging this left wall. After this, it's all timing.
First try, easy.
Now, I'm gonna skip forward to the Hornet fight so that this video isn't ages long, but now that I've shown you what type of tactics he uses, the rest isn't super hard to imagine. Now, Hornet, as opposed to False Knight, is an actual fight that requires some clever strategies to beat. So after benching at Green Path Stag, he begins the fight. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this fight would even be possible if it weren't for the hero that is Makoto Koji, Hornet's voice actress. This is because Cactus's entire strat revolves around standing in the rightmost corner and jumping or slashing whenever he hears Hornet scream. Her screaming, "Shaw!" or "Edina!" or whatever, indicates that Hornet has jumped and is dashing towards the player's direction. Cactus jumps whenever this happens, and that's basically the fight. It's very slow, requires a lot of attention, and may not even work consistently. But you know, that's basically the summary of a blindfolded Hollow Knight run. He picks up the Mothwing Cloak, and now he's off to get Claw. But before he does that, he has to face off with the greatest enemy of all, the main menu. To do this, he's very careful and moves the mouse really far away, and then slowly maneuvers through the menu. There may or may not have been times in previous runs where he accidentally shut down the game. As I mentioned earlier, his playstyle has changed quite a lot now that he has dash. He can now use the dash to count distance, which becomes increasingly useful because the rooms get bigger, the platforms get smaller, etc, etc. Once again, positioning against walls and other landmarks is really important. See for example how he uses the big walls on the side of this room to position himself. However, remembering exactly where you are in a big room like this, especially when you fall into a few acid pits along the way, is not exactly easy, and he decides to quit out once he gets lost. The quit out is one of his best tools in case he gets in a pickle, because if he messes up a segment, he can simply restart the entire sequence from the beginning. Now, on the very next try, he makes it all the way down, and then goes on to kill the Shroomal Ogres for the charm notch. Having more notches is going to be really important for his strategies later due to the charms he's going to be using. Now, Cactus is not one to do things the easy way, and that's why he learned the explosion pogo blindfolded. Now, how's this possible? Well, it's all about setup. For starters, he does 2 neutral dashes to line himself up with the wall, and then once he lands, he does 3 full jumps. This lines him up to pogo right before the spore explodes, and due to his positioning, he gets hit to the left, where he can just pogo and dash again.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah. After slowly but steadily making his way through the mantises in the upper mantis village, Cactus is able to pick up the mantis claw.
And there we have it. Good shit.
Now, despite getting the city crest, Cactus actually is entering the City of Tears through the Blue Lake. This mainly has to do with the patch he's running on. He's doing this run on patch 1221, which means that the lever skips still exist. Most notably, there is a lever skip you can do with dash slash, where you can get the Shade Soul without the elegant key. Dash slash will also help him make his way through Sanctum, which is an area that probably wouldn't really be possible if it weren't for this. Also, it's gonna allow him to buy some charms on the way, which is good, and he gets to flex by doing a blindfolded shade skip, which I can't really blame him for that. Another unexpected example of something that becomes really difficult when blindfolded is the Salubra Charm Shop menuing, believe it or not. If Cactus isn't careful and doesn't pay attention to what he's doing, he might buy the wrong charm and kill his run. But he actually has a really clever solution for this. In the shop menu, he works himself from the bottom up, knowing that he hasn't unlocked the notches and doesn't have enough geo for quick focus. This safely lands him on Shaman Stone without running the risk of buying the wrong charm and killing the run. These small little creative solutions are really the backbone of this run. From here, Cactus rescues Sly and sets up the Shade Skip. Just like the other speedrunning skips in this route, there are consistent ways to time and position yourself using dashes, jumps, and nail hits. That being said, it's still quite impressive. Just a little bit further ahead, I want to highlight the way Cactus approaches the dream platforms. While there is no inherent risk of dying or ending the run here, this segment is really tricky and could waste him a lot of time, which makes it crucial to come up with a good strategy so that he doesn't waste his brain power on it. Keep in mind there's still around 3 hours of gameplay to go, so he really needs to optimize. After clearing each chunk of platforming, Cactus dashes off the big platforms. This is because there's a new hazard checkpoint set with each one of them. This allows him to start the next segment from a consistent position. After getting the Dream Nail, Cactus makes his way all the way down to King's Station. He gathers a few relics and kills the Gorgeous Husk before setting out leftwards. As previously mentioned, he wants to get dash slash, but he simply doesn't have enough geo for it yet, which means that he needs to go sell to Lem. He uses the Watcher's Spire lever skip to get up, and then sets his bench over at Cornifer. This bench is going to be really important later, as he needs to return here a few times. Now, after selling to Lem, he travels back to King's Station manually and goes down to Kingdom's Edge. After getting dash slash from Oro, he returns back to the Cornifer bench and goes into Sanctum. Before he does any of the actual Sanctum, he goes to the left and does the dash slash lever skip to get Shade Soul early. This lever skip is really important because it allows him to get Shade Soul before even going to Crystal Peak or doing Sanctum. This is going to mitigate a lot of the pain and suffering that comes with Soul Sanctum RNG that he otherwise would have a really hard time with. Not that Sanctum is particularly nice like this either. Before Cactus enters Sanctum proper, he gets the simple key from storerooms, which is going to be useful later. Sanctum proper is a really tricky area. This is especially the case when you're blindfolded, because now not only can the Soul Twisters teleport anywhere, you also don't know where they are. This is the first place in the run where Cactus takes a death.
Oh, I was on 2 health. And he teleported in front of me. I got it. I was on top of the lever, but I got bad RNG and he teleported in front of me. It's not that big a deal. We can get back there easily.
Due to the nature of Sanctum RNG, this is pretty much unavoidable for Cactus, but he manages to rescue his Shade and save the run. As I mentioned earlier, the dash slash is really useful in Soul Sanctum because it allows you to do certain lever skips that skip the trickiest parts of Sanctum. For example, this room, dubbed the Hell Room by speedrunners due to how bad RNG-wise it is, can be completely skipped with a dash slash. So, Cactus makes his way to the Soul Master Arena after the Soul Twisters let him through. He enters the arena and begins the fight. But how do you fight Soul Master blindfolded? Well, as Cactus begins the fight, he takes refuge in the bottom right corner once again. Just like with Hornet, the game's audio design ends up making this fight possible. It allows him to listen for the fireballs, watch out for the horizontal dashes, and even dodge the dives, since they never actually hit him directly, allowing him to jump over the shockwave. But as you might notice, he's not dealing any damage to the boss. And that's because Cactus is waiting for the orb spinning attack. Once this happens, he dashes out with a consistent setup of movement, and shoots fireballs for double hits along the boss's pattern. Due to picking up Shade Soul, he's able to deal a lot of damage this way, and the boss doesn't take very long to die.
Good recovery! Holy crap!
The second phase is quite similar to how speedrunners do it, because the boss always drops on top of you, allowing you to move out of the way. Once Cactus escapes Sanctum, he goes all the way down to the waterways with the key that he got earlier. Because, well, it's time to get Fluke Nest. As you might know, Fluke Nest is extremely broken on almost every patch of the game. On 1.2.1, the spell is just really powerful to shorten it down. If you're curious about Fluke Nest's history of being broken, I have a full video about it on my channel, not to plug myself too much, but he gets Fluke Nest because of its incredible strength, with an entire 112 damage per full Shaman Stone cast, as opposed to the Shade Soul's usual 40. Once Frogmarss is defeated, Cactus climbs all the way up to the Watcher's Spire, because it's time to fight the Watcher Knights. For this fight, he actually overcharms Shaman Stone, Twister, and Fluke Nest. The reason for this will become pretty apparent as soon as you see the boss fight. Also, note how he refreshes the menu each time to make sure he's equipping the right charms. The Watcher Knights, unlike Hornet or Soulmaster for example, aren't really as predictable in the same way, so the only way to make this reasonably doable is to just kill them before they can kill you. And luckily, with Fluke Nest, that is no problem. Since each Watcher has 220 HP, and the Flukes, as I said earlier, deal 112, you can easily kill a Watcher in 2 casts. However, his setup and timing needs to be perfect so that he gets all the Dream Nails he needs and kills the bosses before they can escape their starting position. After Cactus gets the Geo rewards, he doesn't get Lurian? I'll just let him explain this.
Okay, now normally in a speedrun you would go get Lurian right now, but because we're blind, and we have to go through Crossroads multiple times after this, and after you get a Dreamer, the Crossroads become infected, which means the enemies become more aggressive, and there's more of them. It's just generally a bad time. So we actually don't get Lurian right now, and we save him for last. So we go get Manamon and Hera first, and then before the final boss, we loop all the way back here to get Lurian, just to be safe.
So, He returns to King's Station, goes to Dirtmouth, buys the lantern, and then returns to the Crossroads Stag. Because it's time for the hardest and most mind-blowing part of the run. But first, Cactus needs to get through this Crossroads room. Now, I think before we go into Crystal Peak, I'm just gonna let this Crossroads room play out to really put it into perspective how difficult this challenge is. You know what's really funny? Like, if we didn't know he was blindfolded, this would just look like the gameplay of one of those, like, mobile game scam ads where it's like, only 0.01% of players can beat this level, and it's like the worst gameplay you've ever seen. Actually, I'm gonna make one of those real quick. 1 second. Here we go. Anyway, after Cactus overcomes the incredibly difficult, harrowing Crossroads room, it's time to enter Crystal Peak. This is easily the most challenging part of the run, and alone, I think, makes this one of the most incredible achievements in Hollow Knight history. Think about it, conveyors that constantly move you so you can't stand in a consistent position, laser cycles that repeat over and over again with audio effects so loud that it's incredibly difficult to discern where you are in the cycle. Tall, vertical rooms, and yeah, you can imagine. For each one of these rooms, Cactus needs to refine his strategy to perfection to be able to pull it off. He's found consistent ways to regain health and soul in case he messes up so that he doesn't have to save and quit every time he fails. But really what makes these big climb rooms possible is the fact that he has picked up Shade Soul. Because Shade Soul travels through walls, he's able to kill some of the crystal crawlers from safety. Considering this, it's no surprise that this entire section takes over 15 minutes for Cactus to get through. But all of the challenges of Crystal Peak pale in comparison to the very last room. The Crystal Heart Cycle room is a humongous room. And it really has everything. A giant spike pit, laser cycles, the flipping platforms, conveyor belts, everything about this room is designed to screw you over if you are blindfolded. This is Cactus just repeating his strategy in his head.
Big jump, hold right. 1000, tap off, dash, full jump, dash left into the wall, jump right into the next wall, wait a second, dash left, break the walls, go to the right, dash 4 times, wait for the crystal cycles. Man, oh man, this is...
And the very worst part is that once you get to the middle point, there is no going back. There is no getting more soul. You have to pull it off first try.
Again.
So Cactus takes a deep breath, and he goes. Even a slight misposition will result in tumbling into the spikes below. And that's exactly what happens. But Cactus doesn't give up. He still has 4 HP, and if he plays perfectly, he might just pull it off. However, it's even harder to catch on to the correct cycle here, because the noise of the lasers is just active all the time. So he gathers his courage, and he goes.
Oh my god! Yes! Yes, dude! Oh my god! Believe! All you gotta do is believe! Holy
But just because the hardest area of the game is over, it doesn't mean it gets easy from here. Now, Cactus does something a little bit strange here, because he's gonna go get Ismas. And getting Ismas is not the weird thing about this, it's just the way he goes about it. You know, because he just picked up C-Dash, you would think that he would just do the acid skips to Ismas, and yeah, he does. But he also goes to King's Pass to get 2 lifeblood, only to travel to Waterways to fight Dung Defender for no reason, and then does the acid skip anyway. What? Yeah, turns out he just routed in a completely useless boss. Enjoy the Dung Defender music, I suppose. However, the Isma skips themselves require some pretty finicky timing and therefore are very impressive. From here on out, Cactus returns to Crossroads and goes down to Fog Canyon, because it's time to fight Umu. Now, the fight itself isn't that complicated because he has Fluke Nest and is able to kill Umu in one cycle, so I'm not gonna go into that too much. Out of all of the bosses in the run, this one is probably the safest one. So, he picks up Monomon and then moves on. As usual, from here on, Cactus has two different ways to get to Hera. Either you go through Queen's Gardens, or you go through Deep Nest. The speedrunner's usual pick, Queen's Gardens, is way too difficult when you're blindfolded. With the toggling platforms and difficult enemies, it's just not viable. So Cactus instead opts for the Deep Nest route, and this allows him to bench at the hot spring in Deep Nest and get himself a handy checkpoint to quit out to. And quit out he does, quite a lot of times, because Deep Nest is a very treacherous area, especially when you can't see the game. Despite having dash and C-dash, it's really hard for Cactus to get across the big pits consistently, because the spacings are all really awkward. What also doesn't help are the spiders that shoot projectiles, as well as the ones that spawn on the walls, as well as the floors that break into spike. Oh, you get the point, whatever. Despite all this, Cactus slowly but steadily makes his way through Deep Nest. But perhaps even more terrifying is the giant distant village pit. Because if you fall here, you have to redo the entire area. So Cactus C-dashes from the wall, and... No! But all is not lost. He quits out and does the entire area once again. And on the second try, he does get across. Now, all that remains is Beasten going up to get Lurian, and then fighting the Hollow Knight. Now, before I cover this very last part of the run, I wanted to ask Cactus some questions directly about, well, why the hell he attempted this. So we hopped in a call in Discord, and here's what he answered.
Hello?
So I just had a few questions regarding the Blindfolded run, if you don't mind. I guess the first one is, well, why did you decide to try this?
That's a good question. I think it was someone in chat. I was like out loud. I was wondering, like, what else? What other challenge runs could I do? Because like I was having fun with it, and then someone's like, blindfolded. And I was like, you know what? Not a bad idea.
You just went and did it, just casually like that. And regarding that run, like, how the hell do you learn a 5-hour-long blindfolded run? Like, what was your strategy for memorizing the run?
I mean, I'm a theater kid, so like I've been memorizing stuff since high school. It's easier to memorize it when you're going through it where you can see. So that's what I did basically, is I tried to plan out like movement for that room and see if it would work. And then like get it consistent, and then I would try and do it blindfolded. It's like it's
kind of like the extreme version of learning dark rooms. Like you do it with lantern and then you do it without lantern.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And you barely had any memory slips either, just like 1 or 2.
Yeah, other than
really
that like
awesome.
30-minute one at the end of the run, yeah.
Yeah, and another question that I figured I should ask. What was the hardest part? Because I'm gonna guess it's Crystal Peak.
Peak is the hardest part of the run, for sure, only because of that last room. I don't think that was the hardest to route though, because I will say it took me a long time to figure out how to beat THK, because even with Fluke Nest on 1221, it still like pretty much wasn't possible with 5 HP. So
why did you fight Dung Defender, by the way?
Because I forgot.
So random.
Okay, I forgot. It was part of the route. I didn't. The 2 and 2 didn't add up. Okay.
So how does it feel to be the only person to have beaten Hollow Knight blindfolded?
Literally anybody could do this. I was just stupid enough to like dedicate like a month of my life to actually doing it.
How long did it take, by the way, to learn everything?
I want to say like a month and a half. Probably. Yeah. I was like 6 hours a day for like a month and a half ish.
Anyway, yeah, thanks for answering the questions. GG's on the run, and
of course,
I'll
buddy.
see ya.
Thank you. Thanks so
Later.
much.
Anyway, back to Beasten. Beastden on paper seems quite scary. There's really tight corridors, spiders that shoot projectiles, and of course the Devouts, which deal double damage and therefore can really easily mess you up. Is what I would have said if this wasn't patch 1221 and Cactus didn't have flukes, because they die in one cast. God, this charm is so OP, oh my god. That being said though, the traversal is still really scary because the spiders can really easily knock you into spikes if they hit you, allowing you to take double damage from that as well. Because of that, he ends up on 1 HP once and has to quit out, but other than that, he makes it through relatively easily. He collects Hera and moves out of Beastden. This is where we run into a problem. Memorizing a 5-hour long run, room for room, is really difficult, and Cactus finally has a memory slip. He forgets the movement from distant village to the distant village stag, and he is in trouble. This, on paper, is a completely risk-free room, but if he can't remember it, the run is dead. Minute after minute, time passes by, and Cactus is getting more and more nervous. But he's racking his brain, and it's just not working. Just these few little small platforms are pretty much what stand in his way right now, and he just can't do it. So he tries, and eventually he pulls it off. Even simple little platforming rooms like that are run killers if you can't remember how to do them. It's absolutely crazy. Now that close call is out of the way, Cactus stags to King's Station, goes up to Lurien, and collects, well, Lurien.
Final stretch.
And now there's only one thing standing in his way. The Hollow Knight is the only thing that remains, blocking him from being the first ever person to beat Hollow Knight blindfolded. Even with Fluke Nest being so powerful on this patch, Cactus has no chance against THK with only 5 HP. They are way too unpredictable of a fight, and you can't outdamage them in any way, shape, or form like you can, like the Watcher Knights. So what he does instead is pretty interesting. Cactus goes on a Lifeblood gathering tour. Cactus gathers Lifeblood in Green Path and in King's Pass. He also gets stuck here for 5 minutes, which is understandable. And without taking damage, slowly but steadily makes his way back to the Hollow Knight arena.
We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. Stay positive. We can do this. Eliminate the enemy. We can do this.
And then he begins the fight. All he has to do is damage the boss enough to get to the second phase where he can get few opportunities to heal. So Cactus starts the fight. Once again, he uses the rightmost corner as a reference to try to get some soul from the fight. But once again, what matters is trying to kill them before they kill you. The boss's attacks are way too random to reliably be dodged, but slowly but steadily he whittles down their health and trades hits. Some attacks he actually manages to dodge, whether it be timing or luck, I don't know. And finally, as he's getting low on health, the scream comes, and he's into the second phase. I'm just gonna let it play from here.
Let's go, dude. Let's go. Yes. Oh. Yes.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I do a lot of more Hollow Knight content, so subscribe if you want to, and of course, check out Cactus. His links are in the description. Thank you so much.
I must do.